Welcome to the Travelman Podcast. My name is Ben and I host this cool little podcast. I'll be your Sherpa on this episode. Actually, I'll be your second Sherpa. If you're joining me for the first time, then thanks a bunch for listening. On today's episode, I'll be chatting with Alex Hunter, who hosts the awesome travel channel Attache on YouTube. Amassing over 140,000 subscribers, Alex brings a unique take on traveling with his well-crafted videos, reminiscent of Anthony Bourdain, who we both loved. I've been listening to Attache for a long time now, and I'm super pumped that Alex said yes to coming on my podcast. So sit back and enjoy the conversation I had with Alex. Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining me, mate.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you.
It's an honor to talk to you, Sherpa.
Oh, that word. I love that word.
You are the Sherpa, though.
Well, I hope I can help a few people here and there, but my parents met in Nepal. My grandfather was a Gurkha, so that word is means a lot to me.
Okay, what's a Gurkha, Alex?
A Gurkha is a Nepalese soldier. They have been associated with the British Army for generations, and they have the reputation of being some of the toughest soldiers in the world. And they're handpicked from villages all over Nepal. And my family has a long association with them, and something that we're very, very, very proud of. And obviously, a Sherpa is somebody who is a particular type of person from Nepal who's a mountain guide, and from a very specific place in Nepal as well. So I like to use that word and as humbly and respectfully as I can.
No, that's fair enough. And you're coming from London town?
Yes, where we
Very
actually
nice.
It's not raining sideways for once. It's a beautiful day.
Well, it's raining sideways here, mate. So I reckon we've taken your weather.
Oh, you can have it.
It's cold and wet, and it's supposed to be spring here. So we've been getting 24-degree days, 23 degrees, and it's down to 14, 13. It's really crazy.
Oh, geez. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. What made you base yourself in London?
I came over here about 11 years ago with my wife for work, but don't let the accent fool you. My parents are British. I was educated here in the UK from secondary all the way through university.
Wow.
I was born in America while my father was being stationed in the RAF at Dulles, and spent 10 years there before moving to Hong Kong. But I went to boarding school here, so I am British and I am American. So we've been bouncing back and forth ever since. But it's been I came originally for work actually coming up on 12 years now.
Wow. You definitely have the American accent. I can't hear no British twinge or whatever you would call it. Yeah, British accent there.
Yeah, I think this accent stuck because my wife is Californian, and we obviously spend a reasonable amount of time together. But I do find myself slipping back into an English accent every now and then because, certainly with my 96-year-old grandmother who just wouldn't be able to understand me otherwise. And my kids are born and raised in the UK and at school, so they love to correct me and say, "Daddy, it's tomato, not tomato." So I have to adjust every now and then for them as well.
Oh, fair enough. It's tomato here. We say tomato. But I actually was listening to one of your latest videos, and you did refer to yourself as British, which I found interesting, but I always knew that there was something going on there, that there was a British link.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you'd mention it in another episode.
Yeah, I'm proud of both of my associations. I'm a proud American, I'm a proud Brit, and I have a Hong Kong ID card, and I'm especially proud of Hong Kong at the moment, now more than ever. That's a place in a city that I have a huge deal of affection and love for, and given everything that's happening there, that has just been amplified exponentially. So yeah, I am many things, and I'm proud of all of them. But sometimes I mention my heritage only for context in the videos, because you don't want some mouthy American talking about the simple virtues of something very, very British. So I like to waive my authority, if you will, and my my right to do this from time to time.
That's fair enough. And what are your opinions on Hong Kong?
I think it's a very difficult time for them. I'm very proud of the way that the people of Hong Kong have handled themselves in a very dark situation. They have taught the world how to protest nonviolently, en masse. I mean, literally millions of people taking to the street in not just nonviolent protests, but cleaning up after themselves and leaving stacks of change for people to buy transportation tickets, and leaving bottles in empty glass bottles and plastic bottles in recycling. It sounds so benign, but it's a testament to the character of that city. And I think, we don't need to get particularly political here, but I'm a huge supporter of the protests and the voice. And I don't know how it's going to end. I hope it ends peacefully and with the resolution that they want and they deserve. But I'm so proud of them. I want to give them all my love and support. And you feel, I beg all of your listeners, if you're thinking about going to Hong Kong, please do. Please go and spend your money. Help the airlines out. Help the local restaurants and hotels out, because they need you now more than ever. And it's the greatest city in the world.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I just came back from Hong Kong about 6 weeks ago. I did a little bit of Asia, did Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Singapore. And I felt that Hong Kong was just such a fantastic place. I'd been there in 1997 when the changeover happened from British rule to Chinese rule, or kind of.
Oh wow,
Chinese
that's when I
rule.
lived there.
Oh well, we were there at the same time.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so I've always had a very soft spot for Hong Kong. Plus, my mum worked for Cathay Pacific for 20 years. So she did her service at Hong Kong.
My father worked for Cathay Pacific for 20 years.
No way. Oh, my God. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me... I wonder if they knew each other. Maybe not. I guess Mum was in Melbourne.
I would absolutely guarantee they did.
Really? Wow. Oh, my God. I must ask Mum later on. Well, she's actually away. She's in Porto in Portugal at the moment. But when my folks come back, I must ask her. I'll get your dad's name later on. So, yeah, fantastic. But, Hong Kong's fabulous. Everyone should go to Hong Kong, It's just it's such a wonderful place. It's got great culture. The people are friendly. The food is amazing. And yeah, the protests shouldn't stop you from exploring Hong Kong, because I didn't run into any protests when I was there just 6 weeks ago, or whatever it was, 5 weeks ago.
No, I don't think that there's a safety issue at all. I think there may be disruption from time to time, but what's another great thing about the way they're handling themselves is that they're giving plenty of warning. I mean, they have to legally, but they're also doing it out of courtesy to each other and also to the people that visit Hong Kong for leisure or for business as well. So just go, everybody go, enjoy this wonderful city. It is itself. Nothing has changed.
And your video on Hong Kong is by far the best one. So if people want to watch a succinct travel video on Hong Kong, because no one has time for 1 hour long travel shows, as you put it. I love that little statement. Then listen to Attaché Hong Kong. So it's a great thing. Your videos, I think I mentioned it to you. Mate, they remind me a little bit of Anthony Bourdain, because it's like a little mini travel documentary. Very well shot, sir. Very well shot.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could claim credit for the shooting. That's all Greg. I do basically nothing, and he makes it look beautiful and everything. Anthony Bourdain was a hero of mine, and we obviously took a lot of inspiration from him in the angles that we choose, literally and figuratively, when we talk about a city. But he's the reason why this show exists. So I really appreciate the comparison. Of course, we're not a patch on anything that he could do or did, and the stories that he told and the people that he found and how he highlighted them. But if there's anything that we can do to keep people traveling and with enthusiasm and curiosity like he did, then that's a mission I'm happy to play a very small part of.
Absolutely. How much research and setup do you do before you go to a country?
We do a lot. We do about two weeks of research on the ground, that's canonical information. That's what you can glean from the internet and from asking people on Twitter and forums and Reddit and places like that, where you can get the structured data about how much things cost and the best way to get in from the airport. And if you cast a wide enough net, then the law of averages means that you'll get a reasonably accurate representation. And of course, we fact check on the ground. But what we've found in probably the last 20 episodes is that reality will take you by the hand when you get there and lead you off on some complete tangent that you had not planned for at all. And that usually yields the best footage and the best stories. And actually, in what we've found is the best episodes come from when we work with a fixer or producer on the ground, especially in countries where we don't speak the language. We first started doing that in Japan. We've done 6 episodes in Japan, and we worked with a guy who was a friend of a friend at the time, Joseph Tame, who's now a dear friend. And Joseph made us realize how valuable a fixer can be and translator. He knew where to go and who to ask. He speaks fluent Japanese. He's a Brit, but he's lived in Japan for 15 years, speaks fluent colloquial Japanese, and is a videographer himself and a hell of a drone pilot as well. So it was like having a big old production team in the shape of one man. And that opened doors and helped us have conversations with people that didn't speak English. And of course, our Japanese is non-existent. In Mexico City, we had this phenomenal team that Greg had worked with in the past on a music video. That Greg is a award-winning music video director by day, and he slums it with me at night. And these guys had worked on the film Roma, which a few days after we left Mexico City won Academy Awards. And they took us to places that we had no business being in, that were not dangerous, but were perhaps a little less safe and not perhaps recommended for a tourist to visit, and took us to places we would have just walked straight past. And the production value and the story value, the content value we got from working with fixers is worth every single penny that we pay them. So that's really opened things up for us.
For sure. Now, Alex, Greg he owns Kling Films, is that right?
That's the name that he and his flatmates, who included my youngest brother, came up with at university, and it's kind of been his moniker ever since. But Greg is an artist, and I'm not saying that in a pretentious or assuming way. He is a gifted filmmaker. Where there are a lot of people that are videographers or camera people or editors. Greg is a filmmaker, and he's won awards for his music videos. He's repped by Ridley Scott's agency Black Dog. He's worked with Red Bull as one of their kind of the people that bands request to capture their live performances. He's toured with Bonobo. The dude is weapons grade. So I am so lucky to have Greg. And we work really well together. We get on really well together, and he's just a genuinely good dude as well as a gifted artist.
You know what I've realized about you and Greg? That you've got a special relationship. And I think you guys work off one another really well. And it does come across like you're nearly best mates. And every video you shoot, and it's just you guys just having a bit of fun, being away away from the wives or girlfriends and just enjoying your holidays, and you're sharing that with all of us. So
No,
I think, yeah, you guys are like two peas in a pod.
I appreciate that, and I think that that's what comes from filming 40 episodes together. We know how each other works, and he'll call me out if I've kind of slightly phoned something in, or if he wants me to do another take.
Okay.
And also, like, we've done this so many times now that we can be planning an episode, and he can say, what kind of episode is this going to be? And I can say it's in LA, and he'll know exactly what that means, and he'll know exactly the type of footage he needs to get on the ground. He needs, all of that, and the edit and everything like that. We have, as you say, built up such a rapport that it's, we want to go to the same types of places to film and tell the stories and produce episodes. So it's, he's a joy to work with. And like I said, he's just a genuinely good dude.
And does Greg then go to the country before you and do some shooting before you arrive?
No, that's a great question. Ordinarily, we travel on the same day, if not on the same plane, and film. We just wander. I mean, we'll walk for 40, 50, 60 kilometers on a shoot and just film. And I'm always, the amount of times where I've been walking and talking and realized for the last 5 minutes, I've been talking to myself because Greg is half a kilometer behind me filming some beautiful thing that I, of course, walked right past.
Love it.
That's his gift. Is like, he sees all this stuff that nobody else sees. There have been times where he's arrived like a day or two before me, or stayed on a day or two after me, just to capture B-roll. And also because he just wants to spend more time in the city. But we have it down where he is constantly shooting, constantly capturing B-roll, and the bits that I do to camera, we scout areas and find great spots to do them that are appropriate to whatever it is I'm talking about.
I guess all that scouting you would have done the research for, a couple of weeks before you leave anyway. So you kind of know approximately the areas you're going to film in.
A little bit. If we've been to a city before, it makes it a lot easier, of course. But 9 times out of 10, it's wandering, and that's where we get the best footage, and frankly, the majority of the footage. There are, of course, icons of a city that you want to capture just to sort of place you in that city. But
sure,
some otherwise benign alleyway at a certain time of day that's got mesmerizing light will be the establishing shot for an episode, and there's no way that we could have planned for that.
No, that's true. Alex, can you give me a little bit more info about when you say the LA thing?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was a little bit abstract, wasn't it?
No, it's interesting.
We have really 3 kind of buckets of episode. There's the quote unquote classic, which is the structured guide, the transport, food, and money. 3 distinct chapters with very specific information: how to get in from the airport, how to use the public transport system, how to use the stored value system like the Oyster card or the Octopus card or whatever it may be, the food culture, etiquette, and then money, the availability of ATMs, tipping culture, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Then we have on the completely at the other end of the spectrum, the pure documentary plays like Beirut and Kyushu. Well, Beirut is what actually forced us to re-examine the structure, because we had an opportunity to go there. I'd been there a few times before, and I knew that there's only one way to get in from the airport. It's a taxi, and they use the US dollar. So that's 2/3 of the episode done in 30 seconds. And also there's such a stigma, or at least there was, associated with that country and especially that city. I told people I'm going to go to Beirut, and they're like, "Ooh, dude, you shouldn't. That's really dangerous. You've got kids, man. Think about your wife." I'm like, "Come on. I've been to Detroit is way more dangerous than Beirut, and quantifiably so." So I wanted to dispel that myth. So we did that. Those episodes are exponentially more work for Greg, because the structured episodes, I've written the script before we go. So he knows what we're shooting and when we're shooting. Whereas with a documentary episode, it's just taking a big old piece of clay and shaping it into something that resembles an episode. And so you got those two, and then in the middle there's a hybrid episode where we still try and weave in all of the practical information, but then we like to tell stories as well. So Cape Town is an example of that, where we went to the township with Godfrey, who was a local elected politician there. LA, when we went on the tour of South Central, the hip hop tour, to tell some stories of the city. And we can tell quite quickly what type of episode a city is going to be best represented by, and also what I want to do as well. So we have those three kind of buckets to choose from.
So that middle bucket that you just mentioned, would you categorize the Malta episode in the middle?
Yeah, I would say so. Malta was a strange one because I'd never been there before. I really didn't know what to expect. And I'd written an episode and we got there and I had to tear it up because it totally changed. I had no idea that Malta was like this. It was fascinating. And we just filmed and asked questions and ate food and wandered and drove around. And it produced at the end a very different episode. And I like it when that happens. It means that something has really grabbed our imagination and pulled us in a completely different direction. And that's what we want. We don't want to walk around a city and go, okay, we've checked off all the bits of the script. Let's go home now. That happens from time to time, and it's really unsatisfying.
Oh, I'm sure it would be. I'm sure there's some cities that kind of just create the episode themselves. I think that's probably what you're trying to say with Malta. You just explored the city, and the city just opens up to you completely, and then it becomes the episode. I love that. I think that's great. But you're something that gets you in, out and around some of the world's greatest cities. Those episodes are fantastic as well because they also, give you those other little insights about how to get there, what to do, type of money, all that. But the other documentary style, fantastic as well. Like, you've got some really good ideas going there. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I can't tell you how satisfying it is to make them as well. It's damn good fun. It's a lot of work, but it's really fun. And it's surprising to me how factional people are about the structure of the episodes. That we definitely have format purists who get on us about, if we deviate or if we do a documentary episode. They're like, no, I like the old structure better. And that's fine. I mean, we make like I said, we make the decision based on the city and also what we want to do as well. There are some cities that I really think deserve to have the documentary episode and would the normal structured bit or style or format would not do them justice. So we make the decision most of the time beforehand, but like I said, sometimes in like Malta's case on the ground.
Yeah, no, Malta was fantastic. Well done on that one.
Thank you.
No worries. With Attache's production team, I was reading something about Elliot, Sam, and Greg A.
Yeah.
Are they all part of Attache as well? I know that Elliot, is it Elliot J. Stocks and Sam Stocks?
Yes.
And they're behind the magazine Lagom?
That's right.
Is that something you're associated with them as well?
They're wonderful folks. I've known them for years. They, as you say, have this incredibly beautiful quarterly magazine called Lagom, lagommagazine.com.
Should see if I can get it here.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can.
I'm sure you can. In fact, they list the global stockists on their website. They helped me produce the book. In fact, it was Elliot's idea. He called me and he said, "I've just seen Attaché, we need to turn this into a book." And then 2 years later, we actually got around to doing it. So they helped me with that. Greg Annandale, he's a phenomenal travel photographer and bona fide explorer himself. And funnily enough, actually, it was he and I first started working on Attaché together because it was originally going to be an app. I had no intention of ever making it a show or anything else. It was going to be an app just for myself because I travel a lot for my quote unquote job. And I would go to a
Sure.
city like Estonia or a country like Estonia for the first time, only going to be there for a few hours, knowing, get in the taxi from the airport to the hotel and go, crap, how do I say thank you here? Or do I tip, or is that highly offensive?
Yeah.
And I kept running into the same thing. I was like, well, I should just build a database that I can access on my phone and solve these problems. So Greg was helping me build that. And then he helped source all the photography for the book and he's been invaluable in the process. But in terms of the show itself, the production team is just me and Greg.
Greg B.
Greg B. Yeah, Greg Barnes.
So Greg A is the original Greg?
Greg A. Yeah, Greg A. Yeah, it gets very confusing with all these Gregs. But yeah, Greg.
Too many Gregs.
Greg Annandale. He first started. He's been associated with me for Attaché for a long time, and he's been a friend for decades. So we're lucky that we have this kind of community of folks that we can work with, depending on the nature of the project, be it Attaché or otherwise.
No, for sure. I was going to ask you, what country do you think has surprised you the most?
I would say Mexico, because of Mexico City. That place caught me so off guard and completely enchanted me that I've been back 3 times since. So I've been 4 times this year. I'd been to Mexico before. I'd been to Monterrey, which is a great city. I like to think of it as the Chicago or Manchester or Marseille of Mexico. It's commercial.
It's a little bit gritty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but just so full of characters, so beautiful. And I'd been to a couple of places on the Mexican East Coast, but I'd never been to Mexico City before. And I got there and just loved every second of it. I was completely captivated. I have, like I said, I've been 4 times. I'm going again next month, and the sheen has not worn off. I just fall further and further in love with it. It's what a place. I love it. I encourage everybody to explore Mexico City. It's not one of those places that you go, I've got 2 weeks of vacation. Where am I going to go? But
Mexico City.
you know what? I would strongly recommend it. Strongly recommend it.
Well, what are a couple of things that keep drawing you back there?
I was so surprised how European it felt. It's
okay
for I guess for reasonably obvious reasons, given the association with Spain and the Spanish. But you have these long European boulevards leading up to these monuments of past leaders, and you've got there was a point when I was waiting for Greg. I was sitting outside of a coffee shop next to our hotel, and if you squinted, you could have been in Madrid, you could have been in Shanghai, you could have been in Mumbai. There was such an air of cosmopolitan air, international air. I loved it. Of course, the food is breathtaking. As I mentioned in the episode, Mexican food does not travel well. So to really experience it at its purest and most satisfying, you have to go there, and you have to go to the street vendors and just let them give you a plate of something. And that's really the case in a lot of countries, but so much so in Mexico City. The people are the most welcoming and warm and friendly people. It's obviously a huge city. The traffic is nightmarish, but these enclaves throughout the city have such character to them and such different vibes as you move from one point to the other. And seeing the old with the new as they've regenerated that city in the last 20 years is they've done it with such elegance. I think unintended elegance, but it's nice to see the relics of bygone days, even though there's this uneasy relationship between their Spanish, the period of Spanish colonialism and modern day Mexico. Okay. It's I think they've deferred gracefully to that in the reconstruction of Mexico City and Mexico as a whole.
Oh, well, it looks like I've got to get to Mexico City.
Yeah.
I've been to Playa del Carmen. Have you been there?
I have been there.
That's a lovely place.
Yeah, that the Gulf Coast of Mexico, boy, there's not many places quite like it.
Oh, the water. That's the one thing I noticed. The water is crazy.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
It's beautiful.
I've never seen that colored water. And I always stuff up the way turquoise. Oh, I said it right. Usually I say it turquoise. I can't say the word. Turquoise. The turquoise water is unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
And you bang on about the way the people are. I found even the people in Playa del Carmen just so lovely, so friendly. The Mexican people, and I'm talking about probably more so the Mayans.
Yeah, absolutely. The quote unquote indigenous, which is a dangerous word to use. It's
I know.
And it, I have such a huge respect for the Mexican people. Coming from California, we would be nothing without them and their Central American brothers and sisters. They have. California is shaped by Mexico in so many ways. I mean, obviously, it was part of Mexico for a long time, but actually not a long time, a short time. But it's a country that I have a growing and already huge amount of respect and admiration for.
Unlike Toronto.
I still love that city.
I just watched it. I just watched the episode last night, so I had to somehow bring it in because I knew we'd have a bit of a laugh about Toronto because you mentioned that you didn't like it for a long time until you made that video and realized what you've been missing.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I was more than happily humbled by a city when my expectations overturned, because I had been there before, and I just, like I said in the episode, I was sort of meh. What New York's just there. I mean, and that's way better. But having explored it with fresh eyes and through the kind of figurative lens of Attaché, I love that city. I was so impressed by it. I was wrong, and I was very happy to be wrong, and I'm looking forward to going back. There's so much to love about that city, from its culture, the way that so many people from so many walks of life have settled there and been able to find that delicate balance of retaining their own culture and identity, but integrating into the machinery, if you will, of a big city like Toronto.
Now talking about machinery, I've got a question to ask you. Are you afraid of flying, or do you enjoy flying in planes?
I used to have a crippling fear of flying.
Oh, really?
Crippling. I couldn't get on a plane, and it's a weird one for me because it lasted for years, and it was related to something that happened when I was a child. But my family has been in aviation for generations. My grandfather was an Air Commodore, aircraft engineer in the Royal Air Force. My father was in the Royal Air Force before he spent his entire career in the airline industry. Even when I had a fear of flying, I was a recreational pilot, and that didn't bother me. I love flying airplanes. I'm a total airline nerd. So it was like this massive paradox that the guy who's the biggest airline dork that everybody knew couldn't get on an airplane. But now I don't, it's been 11 or 12 years since I was able to conquer it. And I do, like last year, I did 275,000 kilometers of flying, and I don't even think twice about it.
I guess we're in a period of time now when flying is probably the safest.
Yeah, and it wasn't so much about the safety aspect. It was just sort of like claustrophobia and being a control freak and all that. And it was how other stresses and problems manifested themselves. But when I started working at Virgin America, I thought, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm going to be helping to start an airline, and I won't be able to experience it. I need to sort this out. So I got the tools I needed, and I managed to get through it. But I completely empathize with anybody that has anxiety of any level flying. I can relate entirely and tell you that it is beatable. It really is. And do whatever it can, because the world opens up right before you.
Yeah, that's my wife. She has a massive fear of flying, although she's gotten a lot better. but we had a flight recently from Hong Kong to Vietnam, and she didn't realize, and neither did I, that the plane actually goes out over the sea, then comes back and then does a little bit of a turn and then does another turn and then lands at Vietnam. And I'm guessing or at Ho Chi Minh City, I'm guessing that's because Ho Chi Minh City can't, they don't have enough space for all the planes. So they get planes to obviously circle a lot. Because after we landed, I looked at my app. I've got the same plane app that I think you've mentioned before on the podcast, which I'll talk to you about later. But I look at that just to see what we did, our track, is that right?
Yeah.
Our flight path.
Mm-hmm.
And it very much went towards Ho Chi Minh City, then banked left, went out to the sea about, I don't know how many kilometers, then did a massive turn, came back in towards Ho Chi Minh City, then turned again. But my wife, at the time when we were flying in the plane, in the little A321, that was, it was rumbling. It was making some weird sounds because it was trying to get through the clouds. But she was freaking out, thinking maybe the plane had been taken over by terrorists or something like that. And she even got me thinking that, this was it. All right, I'm going to die on this flight.
Yeah, that's an awful position to be in. It's funny.
It's terrible.
When you look at a flight path in isolation, and you're just looking at the one that your flight took, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. But then when you look at, use an app like Plane Finder or Flight Radar 24, right, and you look at the area surrounding an airport, you see that everybody else is doing the same pattern as well. And it's purely for sequencing. So getting everybody lined up to land in the right order. And, people are coming from north, south, east, and west. And so you may be coming in a direct path to the airport, but then you've got to go out to sea to get your place in the queue. Because there may be people coming in from the south that they're going to sequence in before you. And it can be disconcerting and also frustrating as well when you look at the distance on the map and you're like, okay, we're almost there. I'm going to make my connection. And then you make a massive left turn away from the airport to go and get your place in the queue. You look at Heathrow and people sit out. One of the holding areas is above our house. And so you see them doing circles above our house, waiting to get their place in the queue, and they're coming down in altitude. But it's, if you look at it in the sort of the macro view and see what everybody else is doing, it's to me, it's very reassuring to see that everybody else is up there having a grand old time with you.
The only problem was I didn't have Wi-Fi, so I couldn't switch on the app and have a look at it to see what was going on. I could have the what do you call it? I can't think of the word now, but the location setting. I could have that on, but I didn't even think about opening up the phone to check it out. But
yeah,
we were only 5 or 10 minutes away from the airport, and then when we did go out and then come back and then do some other stuff, it ended up being an extra 20 minutes. I think that's why my wife was really going a little bit crazy. She just wanted to land.
It is what happens, unfortunately, especially at busy airports in regions like that. They're busy, they're congested, they need to get everybody stacked up, and it does add. Like, I flew into Dallas recently, and we might as well have flown to Mexico City, which was my intended destination, with the amount of zigging and zagging we had to do. Yeah,
no, that's actually talking about Dallas. Have you done a video there?
No, we haven't. Not yet.
Do you have any plans to? Because I don't know anything about Dallas.
I don't know anything about Dallas either. I've got a few friends there. It's a city that I'd love to feature because it's actually, there's a lot of cities in Texas that I want to feature, but Dallas is pretty compelling for a lot of reasons that I'd love to feature. But I think it's one of our more requested cities.
Okay. And do you know if Dallas Airport is it quite a large airport?
It's gargantuan. Absolutely gargantuan. Yeah.
Like Heathrow size?
If not bigger. I would say it's bigger. And certainly in terms of geographic footprint, it's much bigger.
I'm thinking, is Dallas the airport that has all the conspiracy theories about it? Maybe I'm thinking of another airport. There's one that apparently has tunnels underneath it, and it's just a very strange airport.
It is a very strange airport. It's a bear to transit through, especially if you're coming from overseas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would not recommend it because, of course, when you go into an American airport, even if you're connecting to another international flight, you still have to go through immigration and customs, and
I hate that.
it gets very busy. It's a very, very, very big airport. So yeah, it's a fascinating airport from an airplane dork's perspective. So I like going there, but from a passenger's perspective, not my favorite airport in the world.
You know what? I've got that's my next question. What is your favorite airport in the world? And maybe what's your least favorite?
My favorite airport in the world, that's easy. That's Hong Kong.
The new one or
both.
Kai Tak.
Kai Tak was amazing. I worked there. My father worked there. My father ran Kai Tak for Cathay.
Wow.
So that's an airport I am intimately familiar with. In fact, my primary school that I went to for a few years, Boundary Junior School, was on the flight path to Kai Tak. So every 90 seconds, we would have to stop lessons, let the plane go over, carry on. And when I first got there, I looked around and was like, this is insane. You guys know this is insane, right? But within a week, you just find this rhythm of wait for the plane to go over. I'm sure we all got permanent hearing damage from that place, but it was a great airport. But no, the new one is something else. It works so well. The food options are amazing. The layout, it's a Norman Foster airport. The Airport Express, the way to get into the city is so good. It's so easy. It's airy. It's got the best lounge in the world. The Cathay's the pier, and I used to work there too. So it's a place I have a great deal of fond nostalgia for as well. And also, when I get there, I know I'm arriving in my favorite city. So there's that added layer of excitement to be there. I love that airport. Is it as good as Changi? Probably not. But Singapore is not as great a city as Hong Kong. There's your controversial
Changi's got an indoor waterfall.
Yeah, but so does shopping malls and hotels. Don't get me wrong. It's true. A great flipping airport. I mean, holy cow. If you're doing it just by ticking the boxes, it's easily the best airport in the world. But my favorite airport is Hong Kong.
And Norman Foster, who you mentioned before, is he an airport designer?
He is a architect of great prominence. He's designed many, many other things other than airports, but he has designed also, not coincidentally, some of the best airports in the world. A lot of the Hong Kong skyline is him, and of course many other wonderful cities around the world. But yes, he has designed a lot of airport terminals and airport structures as well.
Okay. I'll have to do some research on Norman Foster because I do plan on doing a podcast about how airports are made, but I can just imagine the amount of research I'll have to do for that.
Yeah, it is a lot to do, but he is nothing if not prolific.
Okay. I'll have to look him up. Now, did you tell me what your least favorite was? Least favorite airport? Is it the one that maybe is close to your house right now?
No, I don't. A lot of people hate Heathrow. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's not the best hotel. It's not the best airport in the world, but it's not. Yeah. I don't think it's nearly as bad. I mean, Mexico City's that's a freaking terrible airport, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. Everybody admits it. That's not a point of pride for Mexicans or Mexico City residents. It is a crappy airport. But I think my least favorite is probably Boston. I hate that airport.
Fair enough.
For a variety of reasons. There's nothing
just about to ask
nothing good about it. The parking is a nightmare. It's always under construction. The only redeeming feature about that airport is the fact that it's like 10 minutes to get into downtown Boston. I think if you ask a lot of people that question in America, they would say LaGuardia, but I've only been there once. I know it's terrible, but I haven't had enough experience for it to be my least favorite airport.
And what's the best way to get into town from Boston?
Honestly, a taxi, they take no time, or an Uber. You have the Silver Line of the T, which is their metro system, which
Oh,
is
okay.
another great way. Gets you right into downtown, gets you to Boston Station, which I'm sure that's not what it's actually called, but it's the central station in Boston, and where you can get everywhere else in that city.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been to Boston. So I've only been to a few cities in the US, but I've got to start ticking off more cities, but I just need more time.
Yeah, that's always the challenge, isn't it?
Travel. Yeah, it always is, but I'd love to go to I've gone to LA, San Diego, New York, obviously. Miami, I really don't like Miami. I don't really like the airport that much.
No, it's not a great airport. It's getting better, but it's still not great.
San Fran's beautiful, actually. That's a wonderful place, San Francisco.
Yeah, that's where I'm from. That's
oh man, that is such a
city
cool
I'm proud
place.
of.
You should be. It's got the best scenery.
I grew up about 30 miles east of San Francisco for the first 10 years of my life, and actually, Virgin America, when we founded it, was based out of San Francisco Airport. My father worked at San Francisco Airport for several years, so that's it's an airport that I'm fond of. I have one of my best friends as an air traffic controller there. It's unrecognizable from when I worked there 12 years ago. They've done so much regeneration. But it's a great city, great part of the world, great airport.
Would you say that city has the best scenery to look at? If you were to say if you had an hour and a half, 2 hours up your sleeve, and you wanted to leave San Francisco, you've got Napa Valley, you've got Sonoma, you've got the Redwoods.
Yeah, there's a lot. The Greater Bay Area is stunning. We spend the whole summer there because all of my wife's family are still there. So we spend a few months of the year there, and we, even having lived there for half my life in total, we haven't even scratched the surface of what that area has to offer. San Francisco itself has been struggling with a lot of socioeconomic problems for the last 20 years now, that have really, really been exacerbated by the tech boom. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go. In fact, it has a lot to offer on so many levels, but it's worth exploring the Greater Bay Area as well. There are some cities that deserve your attention.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place, and I'd tell anyone to check it out if they're going to America. See if you can go to San Francisco. It's a very nice place, and the people are lovely as well. So
yeah, Californians are very friendly people.
Californians are the best. I only know Californians.
Oh yeah,
I know a handful of them, and they're really cool people.
Yeah, they are.
Good. Now, I read a bit of your bio online, and I've read that you think travel books give you only the most common tourist attractions and overpriced eateries, and that's about it. Now, what do you think are the most important things to be listed in a travel book?
Etiquette is the number one.
Etiquette, yeah.
For me, I think it's imperative that we be good guests when we travel to other countries and understand the etiquette and the protocols. And even if we don't understand them, or even at the extreme disagree with them, it doesn't matter what we think about them. It is our duty as good travelers to research them, to understand them, and do our best to adhere to them. The effort is 90%. If you make a faux pas as a guest, you're not going to offend anybody if you put the effort in. And for me, even in places where we all speak the same language, like going from the UK to the US, or the US to Australia, even from the US to Canada, there are subtle differences in the way that we all live our lives, and understanding those is really important. There is nothing more frustrating and frankly offensive to me than seeing a tourist completely flouting the protocols and the etiquette of a country. I think that it just makes my blood boil. So we spend a lot of
Same.
time on it in the episodes, and I also think it's what should be the most important part of any travel guidebook.
Absolutely. It's about respect.
It is about respect. I think that so much of travel is about respect. And again, it's the effort. It's learning a few key phrases in the language. And even if you butcher them, it doesn't matter. You put the effort in. It's taking the time to understand them. Like even in a very etiquette driven society like Japan, if you try, that's all that is required. You're not going to offend anybody if you make a genuine mistake. But if you're being a jerk, then, you're not going to be welcome there, and nor should you be.
Yeah, I've ran into a few jerks overseas, and I just shake my head because I hear their accent, and some of them are Australians, and I think you can't be acting like this.
Because respect. You're right, and one could very easily argue that you are representing the country that you come from. You are an ambassador in some form or another, and we've seen it a lot with as travel becomes more accessible, and that is nothing but a good thing. You do see it more and more, and it's not about being kind of overly fawning or completely ridiculous about it when you go to a country that is very different from your own. But it's like being a guest in somebody's home. You're going to act with that required deference, and I think that's very important.
Absolutely. Now, I was going to say I found your podcast Layovers by chance. I just thought I would look up your name and put it in the podcast app, and it came out with Layovers. I never thought that you had a podcast. I just thought it was all YouTube.
No,
and you do,
yeah. The podcast is called Layovers, as you say, and I do it with my dear friend Paul Papadimitriou.
That's right.
I'm just the co-host. Paul does all the work. He does the research. When he and I are dear friends, and he travels more than I do for his work, and he's like me, a total airline nerd, and we're always every single day pinging each other back and forth with stories that we find or photos from our travels, and mainly of the inside of airplanes and all of that, and our frequent flyer hacks and all of that. And it was like he just slid a microphone in between us as we were having the conversations we would have had anyway. And we just recorded our 99th episode. We've been doing it for several years now, and we've built up an audience that we really love to talk with, that are fellow travelers or airline enthusiasts. We've been lucky to have some really interesting guests on. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Do you think some of the audience on Layovers also watch Attaché and vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a overlap of people that are interested in the travel side as well as the airplane and aviation and airline side that watch both. I'm always tickled. Like the fact that we're having this conversation kind of blows my mind, because I always forget whether, when we're recording an episode of Layovers or Mastication Nation, our food podcast, or filming Attaché, that people are actually watching and listening. Because when people come up to me in the street, like I've had people come up to me all over the world and go, "Oh my God, I watch Attaché." I'm like, "Oh yeah, people actually watch and listen. I should probably think a little bit more carefully about what I'm saying."
I had a woman come up and hug me in Vietnam, but I think she just hugged me because I look like some Westerner. But I tell everyone, she was a fan of the Travelman podcast.
Oh, that's so cool. It's so like when it bridges that gap between online and offline and the real world, just kind of comes to, I love that. It's happened to me all over the world, and it just makes me so happy.
It's a nice feeling, isn't it?
It is. And it's not like, it's not about being recognized. It's about meeting somebody that is really the reason why I exist, or the reason at least the shows exist. If it wasn't for the people that watch and that listen, there would be no reason in doing this. And I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful collection of people that send me their stories, and I can bore them for hours with our stories of travel as well. So I'm eternally grateful.
Oh, you're not boring. Your stories are fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Now, how do you travel the world, though? You're a keynote speaker. You've got your podcast, the YouTube, everything else. You must be just busy all the time.
Yeah,
And
the
you've got
last
kids.
few years have been crazy. Like every year breaks the record of the preceding year. My wife is very patient. I think that's probably the answer to that question. But
Sure.
initially, when we first started doing Attaché, I did it on the back of places I was already going to. So if I was giving a speech in Dublin, for example, I would find out if Greg was available, and I would say, I'm going to Dublin to give a speech. I'll tack on an extra day and we can film an episode. And that was probably the first, 7 or 8 episodes. And when it started to pick up steam and people started to watch and we started to get sponsors, then we planned episodes. We planned 6 episodes out, and we picked cities that we wanted to go to. We sold advertising inventory against those like a proper business, even though it wasn't. And I really didn't want it to be a business either. So that the kind of unintended consequence of that was I was then traveling basically twice as much because I wasn't piggybacking off my existing travel. So, and then there was the recreational travel I would do with my family. So last calendar year, I think I did like 275,000 kilometers of flights. And I think maybe,
Wow.
I'll tell you, I did 75 segments. Paul clears 100 plus every year, but he doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
He has cats, but he doesn't have kids. So
I have cats. I don't have kids either.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes I bring the kids with me, and they've been on behind the scenes at shoots. And my brother, both of my brothers have been on multiple shoots, so it's fun to do that as well. My wife vehemently refuses to participate, but one day.
Yeah, I've seen both of your brothers. One was on the recent Toronto video.
Yep.
The bearded fellow.
That's it.
That kind of reminds me of myself a bit. And then your other brother.
Yes.
Who's been on, I forgot the episode.
He was in Copenhagen.
That's the one. He was walking around with you in Copenhagen. So do you and your brothers, you guys all live in different cities?
That's right. My brother lives about half an hour from me here, my middle brother, the one in Copenhagen. And then Will, my youngest brother, who does Mastication Nation, the food podcast with me, he lives in California.
And is Will the one that you saw in Toronto?
That's right.
So he lives in California.
He lives in California, and he used to live in Toronto, and he's a food expert. So whenever we're going to have a food heavy show, we bring him along because he really knows what he's talking about.
Fantastic. So did you say you have a food podcast with him?
Yeah. Because he is not only a hell of a cook, but he's a food he's a food expert at a kind of scientific level, not professionally, although he could.
Yeah.
So I just wind him up and let him go, and he just talks and talks and talks and talks, and we do it by alphabet. So each episode is we pick, the first episode was avocado, the second was burgers, the next was chili, and so on and so on and so on. So, and he does all of the science behind everything, and I learned something every episode, so it's great for me too.
Yeah. Well, let me know when you get to episode X, because I can't think of any vegetable or fruit.
We did it, and we totally phoned it in. I'll let you go and have a look at what we did, but we kind of chickened out because we couldn't think of anything either.
Yeah, I don't think there is a fruit or vegetable or any type of food that starts with X unless it's in Africa somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think there is either, which is why we chose the easy way out.
I'll give you one for Z, zucchini.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's one of our favorites.
It's the best. So where are you off to next?
Travel-wise, I am going to Dubai. October's always really busy for me, so I'm doing Dubai, Paris, Lisbon, Mexico City, and Copenhagen. in October.
Oh, wow, that's pretty busy.
Yeah, October is always busy for me. So I was bracing myself, and we've all planned accordingly. But I'm looking forward to it.
Is that work and leisure, or
Everything except Copenhagen is work, either speaking or consulting. We have not planned the next Attaché. We're taking a little bit of a break so I can kind of restructure things, but we will be back soon-ish. Greg's on vacation too, a much-earned vacation. So I'm trying
B.
Greg B, yeah, Greg B. He's trying. Greg Barnes, Sir Greg Barnes is on a well-deserved vacation. Yeah.
No, fair enough. Well, I'll ask you some final questions, if
course.
I may. Okay. So I ask these to all my guests. If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you like to be?
I would love to be in Okinawa in Japan. I've been. We go to this place, my family and I, called Ishigaki, which is this in the Okinawa archipelago, but it's at a very, very southern point. It's the second most southern island in Japan. It's 1,700 kilometers south of Tokyo, only about 150 miles from Taiwan.
I was going to say that it would be close to Taiwan. Yeah,
it's no distance, and you can only get to it from Japan flight-wise, except for this flight from Hong Kong, which we take. And I love it. We go as frequently as we can, but I've never been to the rest of the archipelago, including Naha, the main island. And I would, I'm fascinated by it. I want to go. I want to spend way more time there. And if I could be anywhere right now, that's where I would be.
No, that's fair. And what do you love about it? Is it the water, the people, the food, bit of everything?
Yeah, it's everything. It's very, very laid back. Japan has a reputation for being quite formal, and that is kind of the case. Although, as soon as you leave Tokyo, at least in my experience, I'd be very interested to hear if your listeners have had very similar experiences. Things relax considerably, especially in places like Osaka. And when you go out to Okinawa, or at least Ishigaki, people are very chill, and it's like the Hawaii of Japan. It's very tropical. It's a coral island, so there's reefs everywhere. It's the best scuba diving in Asia.
Wow.
The food they have the best beef in Japan. It's full of history. The people are wonderful and friendly. I feel weirdly at home there, and I've made friends there, which seems so implausible given that we go for like 10 days once a year. So
you go every year?
It's a captivating place. We try and go every year. Yep.
Oh, I want to go there so bad. It's been one place that's on my bucket list.
I recommend it more than anything. You can get there, like I said, from Hong Kong, which is probably the easiest for you guys because you don't have to go all the way up to Japan and then come back down again. Hong Kong Express, true. At least for the time being, run flights there.
Okay, hopefully they've still got flights there or leaving Hong Kong.
Yeah,
considering what's
I
going
sure
on.
hope so too.
Okay, so if you could and you can eat anything in the world, what would you be eating or drinking if you got the opportunity right now?
You bastard. That's a difficult one. That's a really, really, really tough question. I think
that's right.
It's funny you say this because I'll tell you what, the X episode of Mastication Nation was me and Greg Barnes, not my brother, because my brother was on vacation with his wife. So Greg and I secretly recorded an episode in Toronto when we were filming, and it was reviewing all of the things that we'd eaten on the 40 episodes of Attaché and talking about our favorites and our least favorites. Cool. Yeah, that was fun. I think for me, and this is Greg's, but we had these things in Dubai called Omani breakfast rolls, and we discovered them with this wonderful lady called Arva, who runs a company called Frying Pan Adventures, this food tour company. And you can see them on the Dubai episode of Attaché, but they're basically like a fluffy Indian parota, like the fluffy flatbread, filled
delicious.
with scrambled egg, like this mayo, ketchup, a few other bits and pieces, and then this Omani brand of potato chip, like crumpled up and then rolled up. It sounds kind of gross on the face of it, but oh my God,
sounds all right.
So flipping delicious. And it's breakfast time here, so that would scratch a lot of itches right now.
Am I making you hungry?
Dude, yes, big time.
So sorry. I'll be letting you go soon so you'll be able to eat your breakfast. Do you know what you'd be drinking with it? Do they drink coffee there?
They do. They have wonderful Arabic coffee, yeah. Strong as anything.
Oh, I actually feel like a coffee now, but it's a bit late for me. It's 6:39 p.m.
Oh, yeah, you won't sleep if you're anything like me.
Yeah, no. Okay, so final question, and then I'll let you go. What's your favorite country and city? I think I know what your city is, but what's your favorite country?
My favorite country that I've been to, and that I kind of gravitate back towards, if I've got like, we should go somewhere on vacation, is Japan. Yeah. I think that's fairly obvious. I love that city. That country. I hadn't been there until only 3 or 4 years ago, which is embarrassing to say. But now I can't
it's not
get
embarrassing.
I can't get enough of the place. And we've been to the northernmost part and we've been to the southernmost part, and there's so much difference in regions, let alone the tips of the country. And I discover more and I fall in love with it more. And I love it. It is a little bit cliched, but it's cliched for a reason, because people that go there are immediately entranced. And there's so much more of it that I want to explore. I love it. I want to spend more time there. I want to know more about it. We've explored living there for a while, but I love Japan, and I want to be there right now.
So you want to be in Japan eating that strange Arabic thing that you mentioned?
Yes.
But then on the other hand, you rather be on the Japanese archipelago, maybe sipping a margarita or something.
Exactly.
And would you say that Hong Kong would be your favorite city, or is Tokyo maybe your favorite city?
I think Hong Kong is my favorite city. I try and go there a few times a year, mainly because it was home for a long time, and I have many, many friends there, and I feel at home there than probably any other city in the world.
No, that's fair enough, Alex. Fair enough. Well, dude, I've had such an awesome chat with you today. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Oh, me too. And thank you. I can't tell you how much it means to me to be part of this. And I love what you do. And thank you so much for doing it. And also, really, really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for including me in the conversation. I'm truly honored. It's been a hell of a lot of fun.
It's been awesome fun. And how can people contact you, Alex, if they want to, follow you, or obviously you've got Attache and you got the other things. So what's the best way for someone to not get in contact with you, but follow what you do? Yeah,
sure. I mean, get in contact with me, please. I love to talk about travel and anything else. Yeah. Probably the easiest thing is to go to alexhunter.org, not .com. .com is owned by a Las Vegas pornographer. I've been trying to get that domain for like 15 years, but no, alexhunter.org, and that'll point you in the direction of my various projects.
So what was the pornographer's one?
Yeah.
Hold on, just popping that in now. How weird.
I know. And so alexhunter.org, and then the site, the show is on YouTube, and you can find it on the site as well.
And if people want to listen to you on a podcast, you're on Layovers?
Layovers, yep, and Mastication Nation are the two podcasts.
And anything else?
That's it. But if you're
a busy guy,
I am, and I love what I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do. So if you guys have anything shows that we should be watching or that we should be talking about, please, please, please get in touch. We love to showcase and talk about other people. If there's cities that you think we should visit or that we didn't do a good job of covering and should go back and do, tell us.
Well, I know where you can come next.
We really
Melbourne.
need to get out to Australia. Yep,
Come on,
absolutely.
You got to come. This
We
place is
really do.
awesome.
We will get
when
there.
you come to Melbourne, let me know.
Of course, absolutely.
And we can have a beer or something.
Definitely. It would be my pleasure.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Alex. And I'm just going to wind it up now, just letting people know if they want to follow me. I'm on iTunes, Spotify. I'm on Facebook. I've got a group, Travelman Podcast, Instagram, Travelman Podcast, Twitter, Travelman Podcast. I'm in TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, YouTube, you name it. Go to www.travelmanpodcast.com. Or you can email me at travelmanpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, yep, see that?
Okay, so we are live now. That's good. Our sound, our wave bars are about the same. Perfect. That's good. That's never happened before. Right now.
You bastard. That's a difficult one.
Alex, thank you very much, mate. And before I hit stop, which I'll hit it in a second, when I do hit stop, can you just wait around as you have to formalize the recording?
Yeah, no problem.
On your end. But you probably know that because you've used the program before. I had someone on before you a couple of weeks ago, and we nearly lost everything because on his end, like, he hadn't formalized, but I didn't tell him. So, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And if there's any issues with the sound, let me know. I'll keep the local file here if you need it.
No, so far so good, mate. Yeah, so thanks again, pal, and I'll be in touch.
Yeah. Let me know if there's anything I can do.
Yeah, I'll just ask you, for a couple of photos maybe I can use for the thumbnail and stuff like that.
No problem.
Anything like that. All right. Well, cheers, Alex, and again, thank you so much for joining me.
No, my pleasure. Thanks again for getting in touch, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, dude. I'll be in touch.
Cool. All right. Take care.
Cheers. You too, bud. Bye.
Bye.